Hi, welcome back to my channel. I'm Miela, and since today is Saturday, we'll be doing story time. Now, it's pretty windy out today, so I hope that doesn't interfere with the audio. But anyways, I also decided to do something extra to add to the story. I did some very quick drawings, very quick. So yeah, let's begin. Sleep paralysis. The last thing I remembered was sliding on some weird slimy water. Then darkness.
Kylie, Kylie, Kylie.
I woke up with a start and looked around, but I couldn't move my head or anything else. My head was on a side, so I had a good view of my room. I wondered what I was doing there and why I couldn't move. But then I remembered the fall. Oh boy, I thought in horror. I'm paralyzed from the neck down. That was my greatest fear, and it came true. I tried shouting out to my mother, but my mouth couldn't open. And then my ears began to ring. And from a corner of my room, I made him out. Growl. Well, at least that's what I called him. He stood up and grinned, just a huge smile in a mass of pure darkness that was the shape of a man. Then, he opened his eyes that were surprisingly human-like, except for the fact that his pupils were blood red. This was the first time I had seen his face. He began walking towards me, and every step he took, the ringing got louder and louder, and my ears began to feel warm and gradually became hotter and hotter. I felt my heart pounding uncontrollably. I knew what this was, and I had to get out of it. You see, it all started when I was 12. One night, I stayed up very late to complete a really long homework. It was a really cold night, so I asked my mom if I could spend the night sleeping by her. So of course she agreed, and I snuggled up by her and she put her arms around me. I put my hand on hers and fell asleep immediately. Suddenly I was awake and I could still feel her arms around me. But then she started squeezing me. I tried moving her arms, but I was frozen. Then I tried telling her to stop, but I couldn't speak. It was horrifying. She squeezed me harder and harder, and I started moving a finger to dig my nail into her hand. It took all the strength in my body, but it worked because I woke up. I woke up in the exact position with my mom's arms still around me. I breathed a sigh of relief when I realized I could move. I told my mom, and she told me that what had happened was called sleep paralysis. A few years later, when I was about 14, it happened again. This time, I was in my room. I had gone to bed very tired and stressed out because I had waited too long to do an assignment and had to complete it in one night. Then at once, after falling asleep, my eyes opened and I could make out a dark mass in the corner of my room. In my mind, I knew it was evil. So I began panicking. The more I panicked, the more form it took until I could figure out that it was shaped like a human. Then I woke up immediately and headed to my mom's room. She's a light sleeper, so she woke up. But I was too scared to tell her that night, so I waited till morning. She told me that when it happens, take deep breaths. 2 years later, when I was 16, it came back. But this time I couldn't see him. I only had a feeling that he was around. I don't know how, but I knew he was under my bed. Probably it was due to the pressure I felt around me. This time, I used the method that my mom had taught me and began taking deep breaths. Sure enough, I woke up. About an hour later, I went back to sleep again. Many times after that, it tried to come back. I would go to bed and feel it coming before I actually got it. But with the breathing technique, it went away. But recently, it came back with more powers than I thought it had. About a month after my birthday, I went to sleep and had another episode of sleep paralysis. The scary part is that you are fully aware during this time. So I immediately realized what it was. I was confused because I had gone to bed early and wasn't as tired or stressed as I was the nights I got it. I was on my back, but I could somehow see the side of me. More specifically, the side of the bed that wasn't stuck to the wall. My ears began ringing, and out from under my bed came his hand, reaching out towards mine. Then the ringing got louder as my hand started to move by itself towards his. I began panicking since I didn't know he could move my body. I watched as my arm slowly moved towards his in an almost glitching motion. I tried pulling it back, but it was almost as if my body wasn't mine. Now, have you ever had an arm or leg that went to sleep? You know that tingling feeling you get after you move it? Well, that was the feeling I began getting in my whole body. And I thought it was because I was dying. But in all the panic, I remembered what I should do. I began taking deep breaths, and my arm started moving back to my side, while his arm started retreating. Then the tingly feeling went away, and so did the ringing. So I thought it was safe. So I tried moving, but I couldn't. I was stuck, and the panic rushed back in. The tingly feeling returned, and the ringing started again. And then I heard it. I felt pure horror. The thing under my bed had growled. My ears began getting hot, and its hand returned, and mine started moving towards his. This time, even quicker than before. I began taking deep breaths, but my breathing was fast and irregular. But the more deep breaths I took, the more his hand retreated. So I continued. And soon everything was back to normal, and I knew it was over. But I never stopped the deep breathing. The second before I woke up, I heard him again. This time, softer. When I woke up, my ears were hurting and they still felt warm. Once again, I went to my mom about it. She's a very cool-headed person, and that is why I felt uneasy seeing her reaction. Though she tried to hide it, I could see she was concerned from her expression and voice. And that is how I came to meet him. And he was pretty close to me now. I began taking deep breaths once again. I closed my eyes so that I wouldn't panic too much by the fact that he was about arm's length from my bed. I calmed down. That menacing feeling around me was gone. So I opened my eyes. And there he was, his face almost inches from mine.
No, you're not leaving here right now, Kylie. You have managed to avoid me for way too long, and now I finally got you.
He said, grinning.